you look at Tuesday on your weekly agenda, you can see that our major goal for today is work time. We're going to be adding some HTML elements to our hosted sites. Basically, this is your first mini assignment as part of the notebook check that I talked about yesterday. Right? We configured that March folder using the project template. Now I want to show you how to start actually adding web pages, and I'll have a little prompt for you guys to work with, kind of like Freelance Friday, but sticking into one sort of category. Our objective, right, is that you guys will be able to continue developing your March apps, the ones that we created the other day, completing a basic home page by the end of the week, and then we'll also try to connect GitHub to Vercel. That might be something that you do have to do from home, but it's not homework. It's just we can't do it with Securely, and then actually host your site by Friday. So we'll talk about that more closer to the end of the week. What we're going to be prioritizing today is something called page.tsx creation and thinking about continuously UI, short for user interface, kind of one of your vocab terms to be aware of this time around. And then you have some independent work time. So what I'm going to be doing, once I reopen my VS Code, it will have the same file or folder, whatever folder you had open previously should reopen. Kind of like if you close Word on accident, the actual Word app, it's going to be like, this is what you were working on, and it's going to pop it back up about where you left it. Okay? So if I open up VS Code, the first thing that I want to show you is how do you create a page in the March notebook. How do you add an assignment to the binder that actually allows you to turn it in at the end of the month for a check. Okay? First things first, you got to open a folder. I don't have one open because I was showing this process to all the different classes. But I'm going to find or follow my path to where my March notebook is saved by going to 2024, semester 2, web design, admin, and then there's my March 2025 first name, last name, right? We worked on this yesterday. If you don't have this yet, don't worry. It's okay. But it is something that you need to get done by the end of the period, and I can help you with that if you need to. Okay? So make sure it's not the zipped version. We're going to click Select Folder, and then that opens up this big guy right over here, right? Usual stuff so far. Usual React app templates, bless you. A lot of things that we're not going to worry about quite yet, but we are going to be focusing in on this app section right here, okay? I know in web design it does get a little confusing the way that I throw out a big variety of words with like web pages, websites, apps, Java, React, right? All this type of stuff. When I'm saying website, most of the website that the user sees, user interface, user experience type stuff, lives in this app folder right here. Before I get too ahead of myself, let me show you, actually I'll copy and paste that in a second. Okay. Let me go through my slideshow just a little bit real quick. We had our entry task. A flex reminder before we get into it. Sorry, I got to switch gears, pivot real quick. Make sure you know where you're going for flex today. Even though it is a business day and you would think that you would stay in here with me, it's actually separated by grade level instead of first period teacher today. So I have a lot of students who are not in my class or I have not taught them yet. So you might be with a teacher that you've not yet had for flex after first period today. And then Wednesday, we're back to normal, usual flex. So we're in the page creation walkthrough portion of our timeline today. Spend about 15 minutes showing you how to create a page. Then I want you guys to create your own page. And then we're going to have a prompt. This is the I do, this is the you do, this is another I do, this is another you do, and then we have our exit task. It's generally kind of what I want to have us lay out today. Okay? So back to VS Code. Hi, good morning. In VS Code, thank you, we're going to be looking at this app. He's not here. Do you need to take it back? Yeah. Thank you. We're going to be looking at this app directory right up here. If you expand that app directory, you're going to see a whole bunch of stuff that lives inside of here. Anytime that you see a page on a website, it's usually hosted in this page.tsx folder. Okay? Before we start editing, I also need to turn on my mouse highlighter real quick. Should be this one. There we go. Green for left and red for right. Okay? We need to start up our live server. Right? This is the kind of thing that when you start working on any web design project, these are just the basics, right? Get in your car, buckle your seatbelt, turn on the ignition. Got to do the same things every time. Start your music, stuff like that. You have a question? You open the March 2025 AV folder first. So click your Explorer in the top left. The 2 papers. There you go. Okay. Go open folder and then open March 2025, the one that we made yesterday. Okay. So if we click on page TSX, this has all of that thing that shows when you, let me see. Let me get rid of these 2 real quick because we don't need those. Let me just save that. Okay, so when you're ready to start up your live server, just like the way you start up your car to make sure everything is working, you're going to go to Terminal, New Terminal, and then we're going to do the command prompt like I showed you the other day, right? Click on command prompt and write the command npm, like National Park Monument, okay? npm space run for run space dev dev, okay? As long as you are in, or as long as it says command right there, this command right here, npm run dev, will start up your server, okay? Hit enter. Hit enter. Make sure that you've clicked into VS Code. All right. It's going to do something called building. Just as a reminder, you want to look for that purple triangle that says Next.js, and we want to find this localhost 3000 or this localhost 3001. Okay? Hold Control, click on that, and that's going to open up your page in whatever your default web browser is for you guys as students. I believe it is Microsoft Edge. Okay. Okay, one second. Okay, I see a lot of hands already. Let's get everybody to a point where we have our live server running. This is something that we'll need to do at the start of class every day. So you'll have lots of practice, but start trying to remember the steps so that we can get ready and get going a little bit quicker. Okay, so I'm going to start at the front and work. We all good? Everybody got the dev server up? Okay, perfect. I'm going to stick with the analogy of starting your car, something that you guys should be doing when you come into class. Okay? It'll be the same steps every time, so you will get really good at it. You'll get lots of practice. But in order for us to see the web pages that we're creating, we got to have a server up and running. Okay, so one of the more frustrating parts about web developing is that you kind of have to switch back and forth between your output, the thing that your user sees, the end product, and your input, which is VS Code, as you kind of code things. Okay? There is an option where you can split your screen like this, but it does get a little full. You might have to adjust a few things, like grabbing the top bar of your terminal and clicking and dragging a little bit. You might have to grab this sidebar right here and adjusting the size of your output or adjusting the size of your input. Okay? Web design with one monitor is a little challenging. So most of the time, if you go into a development field, you'll likely have 2 monitors. I personally like to design full screen on both so that I can see everything that's going on, but whatever works for you is what works for you. This is what our site is looking like so far. You guys ready to add a page? It's simple, but it is a few steps. Okay, so bear with me for just a second. If we click on our Explorer right up here, you can also hold Control-Shift-E. It's the little 2 pieces of paper. That's going to pull up everything that's inside of the folder that we're working on. Okay? Whichever page.tsx is in the app folder right here is the first thing that's going to load when your page gets built. Okay? When somebody on the internet goes, hey, I want to go to this website, page.tsx in the app directory is the one that the computer says, gotcha, that's my starting point. Okay? This is step number 1. If you want to make additional pages, they need additional directories. Okay? If we look at our output, sorry, I got a bunch of tabs open. You can see that there's a navigation bar towards the top of our template that has home, docs, pricing, blog, and about. Okay? Look at this at on the output right here. If we go to the input, what do you notice about some of the other things under the app directory? Perhaps they might have the same name, right? every time you want to create a new page, you need to create a new subfolder, a new subdirectory for that specific page. And how you do that is very simple. If you left-click on the app folder so that you have this blue bar, helps you see more easily, then right-click with your middle finger, and we want to create a new folder right here. This new folder should have the all lowercase name of the page that you're trying to create. For example, the prompt you're creating today is a little bit of a recipe blog. So we can call this recipes or blog. Question? It's probably just the theme. You have the orange one. So if you right click, you can still have the new folder. Okay. So with my default VS Code, I have the blue highlights. Your theme might look a little different. You just want to have the app folder highlighted so that you know that's the one that you're editing. Okay, new folder. I'm going to call this one recipe, or just recipe specifically, because that's the prompt that I want you guys to think about working on here in a second. When you create recipe, okay, it's empty. If we look at pricing, if we look at docs, if we look at blog, if we look at about, there's some other TSX files in there, but notice how each of them have a page.tsx, right? If we close some of these other ones, let's just look at blog. All right, blog has a layout.tsx and a page.tsx. When I go on my output to the blog page, this is what's on that page.tsx. Currently, it's not very much, right? So, if I were to go to blog page.tsx, which will open in a new tab right up here, you can see that it says page.tsx/blog. This slash right here, or if you hover over the tab, is going to tell you where that file lives. And right now, the only thing that's on there is the title of blog. Okay? If we wanted to do some HTML as we know it, it's got to live in between the import and export functions inside of this bucket right here, starting right about line 7. Okay? So if I had a paragraph by typing the letter P and then hitting enter, and I say this is a paragraph on the blog page. All right. When I go back to my output, what's it going to say on the blog page? Any guesses? Jacob says this is a paragraph on a blog page. Let's see if Jacob's right. Currently, it doesn't say anything because I'm forgetting the last step, which is to Control S. Okay? As a reminder, we haven't talked about this in a little bit. Anytime you see that white dot on the top of your tab, it means you have not saved. How you get rid of that is Control S. Turns back into an X. Okay? Now, when I go back to the blog page, Jacob is right. It says this is a paragraph on a blog page. Okay? I'm showing you this because what we're going to do in our recipe folder is add a new page.tsx file. Okay? It's very, very easy. The same way that you right-clicked to add a new folder, you want to right-click and add a new file and just call it page.tsx, all lowercase. Okay? Just like this. New file, page.tsx. Okay? Now, this page.tsx currently has no information on it. All right? Let me ask you a question real quick. How can you tell which of these page TSXs connects to which part of the website? Okay? Because this says page TSX, and then this says page TSX, and then you'll never guess what this says, but it says page.tsx, right? How can I tell where each of these pages actually live if you're looking at your screen share? Any guesses? Oh, yeah, Dayton. Yeah? So is where it says app or where it says ... /blog or ... /recipe? That's where you want to be looking to see which page you're actually editing, which is why it's really important that you name them accurately. Okay? Anyways, we need to get some stuff onto this page. Okay? So pay close attention. I'm going to go over to the blog. I'm going to copy and paste all of this. And then I'm just going to start editing in the middle. Okay? So Control A is going to select all. Control C is going to copy this export function, which is what makes the site appear on the web page, or the page appear on the website. Go over to Recipe, Control V. Now we just need to change a little bit about some of the functions, okay? We're no longer on the blog page. We are now on the recipe page, but you want to make sure that recipe is capitalized and page is also capitalized. Control S to save that. It's got, maybe it's, hold on.
So if like there's a white dot, it means you haven't saved.
It means you haven't saved. You just need to Control C, Control S.
I'm missing something or if I have actually saved, because this is where I'm seeing what's going right now.
Okay, so you got to be on, did you create, go into recipe, right click, new file, page.tsx, PAGE, PAGE. Yeah, you can click .tsx, hit enter. Okay, now you're in page.tsx right here. And we want to click on blog, click on page.tsx. You see how this one says recipe and this one says blog? We're just going to copy everything from the blog by holding Control A. Oh, sorry, it's okay. Just click right here, Control A. Just click in the empty space. Control A. And empty space again. Click back here. Okay, Control A. C. Okay, and then go to recipe. Control V. Change blog page to recipe page though. So just change this word to recipe, capital R. Okay. So it has to. In the default function it does. Alright. So we want to change this. I'm going to delete line number 7 here by just clicking the number 7 and then hitting enter. Okay. What we've taken is the skeleton of the blog page. We've taken the template from the other page and brought it over to our new one to save us a little bit of time and save us a little bit of headache. Right? Now, inside of this, you see this div right here? Hold on, let me zoom in. There we go. Inside of this div is the HTML that we've practiced. Okay? That's where I want you guys to do the coding based on what HTML is in W3 Schools. Based on the prompt that I'm about to give you, make sure that it stays inside of this div container. Okay? Does that make sense? So everything outside of it is all JavaScript that makes the page actually load. The HTML, the recipe part, it's a little crossover, is going to live right here between lines 5 and 8. Does that make sense? So, tell me where you're going to be doing your HTML coding. Between lines, what's the first line? 5. And what's the second line? 8. Okay. So, Control S to save. Your prompt, the HTML that I would like you guys to experiment with, this is the independent work time section, okay, is trying to create a recipe blog for a client. Let me go to slideshow here. Recipe blog for a client. They are interested in a couple tags, or a couple elements, I mean. They are interested in headings to title their recipes. These recipes can be PB&J, fried egg, simple, 1 or 2 ingredients, right? Cereal. Okay. Headings to title their recipes. Paragraphs or sections to describe how to actually how the food is made, and an image of the completed dishes. This is the HTML elements that I would like y'all to combine for the next about half hour into what could look like a recipe page. So, this means you get to choose what the recipes are. You get to choose the images that go inside of between these lines 5 and 8. Okay? The client is looking for a recipe blog. Ideally, they want about 3 different recipes, maybe 2. Let's go 2 actually. 2 different recipes with a heading, a paragraph, and a picture. If you're interested, they also might have some affiliate links, some anchor elements to other websites that could be included on your page. Okay? Any questions about this prompt that I want you guys to experiment with using W3 Schools, using what you already know about HTML, using what your neighbors know, using what Jake or I know as we walk around, or as I walk around and help? Any questions? Okay, 30 minutes. I'll call you back about 9. I want to see where we're at because I want to help you connect it to the nav bar. Okay, good luck. I am loving the look of things so far, genuinely. You guys are doing awesome. If you've never developed before, congratulations. You've now completed an actual development. We're going to work our way towards deploying it at the end of the week, but we're making good progress. Anyways, I realized that I actually did this a little bit backwards because with page.tsx in the recipes folder, there's no way for your user to find that site. And since you are both the developer and the user right now, you haven't given it to your client, it's not possible for you to see your results unless you are editing it in an already established page, which is also fine. Okay? A big thing with user experience, user interface, is making it as clear as possible how you access different parts of the web page. And how you do that is typically with something called a navigation bar. Okay? Let's use this yearbook picture for example. My bookmarks on my web browser, my tools that live up here on the web browser, are always going to be there no matter what tab I'm on. Okay? We can think of these as 5 separate web pages. They all have the same consistent placements of their specific things, right? TSA, YouTube, let's see what other kind of fun stuff I have in here. Google Translate, right? Even though these are separate pages, they all have the same navigation system. It's very important that you have a clear nav system so that your users and your clients know what's going on. And where you find that nav system in your template folder is in this config section right here. Okay? Config is short for configuration, and you only have to do it inside of the config folder, and it will automatically distribute itself across all the pages on your website. Okay? But this part can be a little confusing here in just a second, so watch with me for a sec and then do yours. What you want to do, if this is even easier, you can close your app folder, kind of like you close a drawer, make it smaller. I'm going to close out these pages, and when I open them, you can see it re-expands it. Close the app drawer. We want to open the config drawer until we see a file called site.ts, not tsx, just ts. Okay? You see how when you open the config drawer, it says site.ts? That's where our navigation bar component could live. So when you click on site.ts, on line number 6 of each of the templates is something called nav items. Okay? This is short for navigation bar items. And you can tell they might look a little familiar. We have home, we have docs, we have pricing, we have blog, okay? Maybe a little similar to perhaps the other subpages that live inside of the folder. Who's to say? I don't know. I just work here. Okay, anyway, so looking back at site.ts in the config drawer, these are the things that are going to make your navigation bars actually clickable. Okay? I'm going to make my terminal just a little bit smaller so we have more screen real estate here. All right, so you can see it goes home, docs, pricing, blog, about. If I go back to the output, which should be not here, we'll just close that tab. Title of my site, home, docs, pricing, blog, about. All right. To add that new recipe folder, that new recipe in the app folder that we made earlier, we want to scroll down to wherever we want it to be in the order. This is first, second, third, fourth, fifth. After about, you want to click on line 26 and then hit enter. Okay? You see how we're still in the column with some of these blue curly brackets? If your terminal is really big, you can make it smaller so you don't have to look at it at the whole screen the whole time. But now we're going to add a new nav item so that our recipe page actually becomes clickable. And you do that with curly brackets. Okay? If you shift curly, it's going to automatically add the beginning and the end. And we can hit enter and create another bucket like some of the other ones you see here. A lot of configuring, a lot of the web design stuff is doing it one time and then copying and pasting it or bringing it back whenever you need it, right? So, what is something that all of these nav items has in common? Any guesses? They all have brackets, you said? And you said an ending as well? Like, okay. Okay, starting and ending brackets. All right. Jacob?
Every line of code ends with a comma to make sure the next one runs.
Sorry?
Every line of code ends with a comma.
Yeah. So every line of code is separated by a comma. This is true. What do you notice about what's inside the curly brackets? Anything look familiar between these? What do they all have? Labels and hrefs. So we need both a label and we need a href. Okay? Labels are easy. That's what your user sees when they're going to click on things. So if you write label, colon, 2 dots, right? It's right next to L. And then in quotes, whatever you put inside of the quotes is going to be what the user sees on the page. So if I put Mix Blakeney's credit card number, okay, right? Save that, Control S. If I go back to my output, something's mad, okay? Each child should have a unique key prop. What is mad? Why are we mad? What is it? Failed to get the prop href. Okay, sorry, so my joke, it interrupted my joke. Okay, anyways, we have a label of Mix Blakeney's credit card number. We also need a hypertext reference, just like you do for anchors. This is important. Hold on. Pay attention, guys. All right. Wait real quick. Okay, href, quotes. Instead of writing an actual URL, like a link or like a path, all you have to do is slash and then the name of the folder. Okay? Since our folder is named recipe, that's on purpose so that it's easy to find a little bit later. We're just going to put slash recipe. Okay? And I'm going to Control S to save. Okay. What is different about mine versus the template? Okay. What do these have that mine does not? What is missing? Commas. Exactly. You always got to tell your computer when to start and stop reading. Okay? So your code, if you Control S to save, you make a curly bracket, you put some commas in between your label and your href, which should, if I Control S, go back to the output. Oh look, there's Mix Blakeney's credit card number in the top of our tab right there. And when I click on Mix Blakeney's credit card number, it takes us to the recipe page. Now, we don't have to connect it back to the home page or the docs page because the navbar is a component that gets rendered across the site instead of every time your computer makes a request for it. It's making your computer's life a little bit easier in order to make the web pages load faster. Okay, so I'm going to take my credit card number off of here, and I'm going to call it more accurately from a UI perspective, recipes. Control S to save, go back to the output, it now says recipes. I'm going to turn on light mode in 3, 2, 1, flashbang, okay? Recipes is a lot easier to see in light mode right here. So if I click recipes, I'm already here, nothing changes. But if I go about, pricing, blog, it's going to take me to whatever content's on my recipes page. So now, whenever you make a change to your recipe page.tsx, like for example, if I said, I can't think of anything funny to say. I got nothing. Let's do some sample text, okay? Like maybe how to make cereal? Question mark? I don't know, man. I just work here. Okay. Control S to save. If I go back to my recipes page, it'll automatically be reflected inside of the output where it says some sample text, like maybe how to make cereal. I don't know, man. I just work here. Okay? With these two things, you have, let's recap what you did today. You added a subfolder for a specific page, page.tsx, did some code on it from a prompt, and then we connected it back to our site.js, or TS over here, so that our user can more easily find the page on the site. Okay? That was a lot of stuff today, you guys. That was a lot of pretty advanced designing to get everything ready to go. And what I want you to do is just Control S to save it for now. That's all I want you to prioritize today. We'll get a little deeper on this Thursday, Friday, and then you'll submit, or we'll deploy them on Friday so you can show off what's on your page. Okay? The last thing I need you to do is your exit task, which you have about 5 minutes for. I did not put it in the PowerPoint. My bad. We go to discussions. Yeah.
I'm pressing Control S, but it's not saving.
You might. Let me check in a sec. Let me introduce this exit task. Okay. Exit task is the green one right here. I'm asking you, what did you prioritize on your recipe pages and why? Think about things like, how did you organize your elements? How did you arrange them? What was visually interesting? Is it easy to understand, easy to read, etc.? This is you thinking about the user interface, the UI of your page. It's a very important thing to consider. Okay? Something to keep in mind. So, complete your exit task. Once you've done that, you can get your phones, and then you guys are off to Flex.